Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed. We have been in this book, Socrates and Jesus, A Dialogue in Heaven, for some time now, and we have given birth to one heck of a question. What is the next stage of mankind, a way of being that is beyond Socrates, transcends even Socrates, and Jesus as well? So we have been in a dialogue with a character named Socrates, who represents wisdom, the use of understanding, the activity of mind, understanding, and we have been seeing how understanding is perfected when you use understanding to revert on the model of understanding. The model of understanding. How do we do that? Well, we use understanding to understand things in the physical world. So we apply words of understanding as adjectives. Everything that you've understood has been a whole of parts. But this isn't just understanding, it's also perception. Everything you've perceived has been the same as something. This stuffy is the same as this stuffy because they're both stuffies and live on my desk. But they're different because this one has long pink legs and this one has little orange feet. Everything you've perceived is same and different. In order to apprehend them, you have to recognize their sameness and differences. You have to bring into a oneness the whole of parts. You have to recognize how they are like and unlike each other. This refers to all understanding and perception and experience. In other words, the building blocks of understanding, the highest functioning we can do as human beings, is the use of nouns, or to reflect on the model of understanding is to reflect on the nouns or substantives that are used as adjectives in the physical world. So understanding and the model of understanding, mind itself, is non-physical in principle. It has to be non-physical for it to apply universally to everything in the physical world. It wouldn't be universal if it couldn't be applied universally if something in the physical world suddenly became different or unequal or go from a whole into only parts. If that happened to something in the physical world, we wouldn't expect the idea of wholeness to change or the ideal of equality to change. So it's not affected by the physical world, but it has scope over the physical world. It's a universal principle or force. That's the model of understanding. To reflect on what the substantives are that we use as adjectives or the nouns. Now, we've talked about the pairs of terms used to understand things, whole and part, same and different. We could even make a list or a set of Lego pieces that is used for understanding, and the more that we understand them, the better we can use them. This conversation between Socrates and Jesus, we can see that Socrates himself has been, I filled my fan quota of the week. Well, you've got more work to do. You need to glaze me harder.
What if a chimp had a cell phone? Who would he call?
That's irrelevant who chimps would call. So, I only have the only person in chat, so you've got to do the work of 1,000 simps. That sounds like an interesting book. Doing the work of 1,000 simps. So, whole and part, same and different. A list of pairs that we bring into a oneness through understanding. But understanding doesn't just use these pairs, it also uses a bunch of monads or ones that we also use for understanding to understand our goal, goodness, justice, beauty, excellence, These aren't a pair of terms, but they talk about what we seek or desire for ourselves. Also, they're substantives. You see beautiful things as adjectives in the physical world of appearances, but you never see beauty itself. The excellence of beauty, the ideal of beauty, the substance of beauty, you only see it as a descriptor. Aye, Captain, Awakening, Simp Harder, got it.
Dead-eyed, and I don't use this kind of terminology like dimwits.
Is what we say to people who aren't simps. People who are not simping me hard enough, we say to them,
like literally suck my dick, dude.
Oof. So, a bunch of pairs and a bunch of monads. All ones. But what we've also been seeing is there's another set of triads, lesser, greater, ultimate, that is used to distinguish model to copy, greater to lesser, teacher to student, greater to lesser. The world of substantives in mind, that's the model of understanding that we are here to reflect on to perfect our understanding. Mind, to the world of appearances, that those terms are used as adjectives, that's another greater to lesser. The model to copy, or the nouns to their adjectives, the substantives to their descriptors. Or as all of reality, not just perception and understanding, but everything that exists is a whole of parts, is same and different, seeks beauty, excellence. So, equally so, greater to lesser, we could say mind to the physical world of appearances. Greater to lesser, meaning all of these things can be applied to greater or lesser, meaning greater or lesser is a universal principle that has an existence or a nounhood in a non-physical realm of being for it to have universal application over the physical world. Again, greater lesser is a substantive that we experience in the physical world as adjectives. But hang on a second. Mean analogies exist. As Diotima is to Socrates, if Socrates goes on and becomes a teacher to us, it's not just greater to lesser, now Socrates can be the greater as well. So now he is the same as Diotima. He is like Diotima. He brings the teaching into a wholeness. His learning is now at rest or completed. We need a term that brings all of those greater units of the duads, whole and part, but not whole of parts, because there's no parts necessary for the whole of the teaching. He is the same as Diotima, but in the completion of an analogy, there's no differences. So it's not same defined by its pair. So we need a term that applies to all of the terms in their greater sense, uniquely defined, differently, in that it's not touched by the parts. Now that sounds confusing. Let me show you a diagram. Here are our pairs that we bring together into understanding and everything experience. Sign my forehead. When you are selling body pillows, I'll sign if you go to my merch store, first start my merch store, then I will sign the body pillows that I sell on the merch store. And I will sign them if you subscribe. Now, I don't have subscribers because I need an average of 3 viewers for like a couple of episodes, and I don't have that yet, so. Like, as a human being, what makes us us? Yeah, exactly. What makes a man, I wonder? That's what we're wondering about. So in our physical experience, humankind is a whole of parts. We are the same as each other and that we're all people, but we're different. So everything that you want to understand, you use these pairs together. Now, there are subsets, like you could think of other units that are derived from this, but this is the basic set that we've been working with from the text. They are applied to these ones. We want to understand things to become more beautiful, to reach our goodness. We think we're benefited. Also, justice is a universal principle that applies all of these universally. So for all of these words to be universal, they have to transcend the physical world of becoming. So we can call that the world of being. Necessarily for causes or principles to be universal. Therefore, the idea of justice is to take all these qualities and chuck the word universal in front of them. So you can ask a politician, what's your position on healthcare? And he will look at you and say, my position? That sounds like you're asking about a belief. Belief is the cause of human problems and suffering. We're not interested in belief. To be a professional, you can't be a professional architect and have beliefs about how houses are built. You can't be a professional pilot and have beliefs about how a plane is flown. You can't be a doctor and perform surgery based on your belief about where to make incisions. You require understanding to be a professional, because only understanding can be applied to benefit. So instead of asking me, what's my position, you better ask me, do I think for income it needs to be universal income? What about wealth equality? What's my position? The only position, the just position, universal wealth equality. You mean there can't be millions of people starving and a trillionaire? No, that's fucking stupid. What are you, crazy? So universal income, universal healthcare, universal housing, universal wealth equality. It's just that simple. Why? Because understanding is based on principles. Principles have a universal application because they have a selfhood in being. I'm trying to stop by every time. I need to kidnap at least 2 other people. Yes. Your job is to start a cult and make friends with people. Then once you get friendly with them, you can have special meetings. And in those special meetings, you can talk about dear leader. And I only need 2 people in my cult. And I think I only have to watch like 3 or 4. And I have to get an average of 3 viewers for like 4 episodes or something a month, and then I'm fine. And then I qualify to so people who view the channel can change the settings, because apparently you can only watch it in like 1080. But if you're an affiliate, you can like watch at like 160 or audio only, I think. So saving data. Like you don't want 1080p on your phone if you're watching on your phone. I go with like 360 or whatever it is. So yeah, so that's your that's as my apostle, I appoint you to start a group of disciples. They shall number 3 in number, and it shall be thus, because thus it is spoken. Does that sound official? Does it sound religious enough? I'm talking garbage.
Disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
I understand that. So, for there to be these monads, now we have to bring in the 3s. There can be a lesser version of justice, injustice. A lesser, not just injustice. Injustice, actually, what it is a distorted appearance of justice that we take as justice because in principle we seek our goodness. No one seeks badness. People who tell you, oh, you're just an evil person, you seek badness, is an abuser. That's abuse. That's not true. We have a lesser appearance-based model of justice that motivates our soul. We seek a lesser appearance of beauty. Notice they're all appearances. Appearances from the physical world. The physical world of appearances gives us the lesser version of the monads, injustice or fake justice, fake beauty, fake goodness. We have the greater version. We have the greatest. The model itself is the greatest whole of all of the parts. For it to be a model, it has to include all the parts. So it's the greatest kind of a whole. But for there to be a greater to lesser, a model to copy, a teacher to student, there has to be the principles that allow for that to happen. For there to be a appearance of goodness or badness as the lesser. Ultimate goodness, self-beauty, self-justice. For all of these to be the goodnesses, let's say it this way, for there to be the lesser, the members within the set, all of these monads or building blocks of understanding, the greater, the name or the leader of the set, goodness, there has to be the principle of good. Not goodness, but good itself. What are we doing? We are using our understanding to reflect on the model of understanding. All of these words exist as a oneness in the model. In other words, we use whole and part, but we've never seen them before. Where did we get the idea of whole and part? We recognize beauty, we seek justice, we recognize injustice, but we've never seen beauty or justice as a physical thing walking down the street. Where did all of these come from? The answer, of course, is mind or non-physical existence. So in a Venn diagram, we can recognize the lesser is the physical world of becoming. We get a model based on appearances from childhood when someone appears or pretends to be just or beautiful or knowing. Our life is therefore an activity where we continually reflect on that model and act according to that model, making our unsuspected false beliefs, which is a model of self and a model of reality, a model of self or mind, a self-fulfilling prophecy that keeps us stuck in our issues or problems. What it is an imitation or lesser copy of is the true model of reality, mind itself, or being. The non-physical dimension of reality that necessarily has to exist for there to be such a thing as universal principles. It's also the model of justice. It's the model of thinking. It's the model of beauty. Therefore, the life hack, what's your political opinion? Oh yeah, it's truth. What's truth? Oh, truth is being. It's the model. I mean, you don't want life to be based on a lie or bad. Oh, it's also goodness. So all of these categories, whole and part, same and different, they're how you understand or bring things into a oneness, how you perceive in a oneness. What you seek is goodness, beauty, justice, excellence. That's in the class of goodness. And you distinguish the lesser imitations from the greater realities in truth. So what's your principle? Oh yeah, oneness, goodness, and truth. Could you ever imagine a politician disagreeing with that? No, I think our government should be based on lies. I think our society should be run on lies. That's fucking nuts. No way. I think we should have badness. Yes, let's create a government, a collective of individuals to serve the community to make it a bad world. No, of course, goodness. Oneness. No, I think we should create divisions and spend our lives hurting and killing each other. See, it doesn't make sense. So in principle, always, forever, every political or any authority figure seeks oneness, goodness, and truth. So do we as individuals. The collective is the individual condition of the soul writ large. Because these are also the three aspects of the soul. Our reasoning aspect, the force within our consciousness, soul is just a word of bringing together into a oneness all of the aspects of your soul. You reason by bringing things into a oneness. Understanding. You seek, there's a part of your belly that wants to eat the sandwich, that wants the goodness for yourself. The goal of your understanding and your planning through understanding. But as we outwardly move to seek those things, we seek the truth of them. We want the greater version. We don't want the lesser one. We don't want the mediocrity. So, our head understands, wants oneness. Our heart seeks truth. And our belly wants goodness. Three aspects of the soul, three forces within our soul. So in other words, every aspect of our soul, every part, or the whole, everything that makes us a living, moving, self-willed entity seeks this model. The model of truth, the model of goodness, and the model of understanding. And you can't have one without the other. You can't reach beauty without understanding how to get there. You can't use understanding unless you want to seek some sort of order or justice. And you won't know you've reached your goal in your outward movement unless you've distinguished the greater or the truth from the lesser, the imitation, the con, the grift, the lie. So they're all interrelated. So this model is what we seek. The model of all of the parts together into a whole. Oneness, goodness, and truth. So therefore, if we use the pairs of understanding, whole and part, in this Venn diagram, we could say the whole of all parts is here. That's the model we seek. So the model that exists here is what we seek, and we apprehend it with understanding, which is the greatest functioning of a human being that makes us better than cows and sheep and stuff. So our human activity is to get the excellence of understanding by reverting on that universal model or principle of understanding, which is what we're doing right now. The name for, by the way, that activity of self-reflection is also the model or principle of yoga or meditation. Meaning this self-reflection not just perfects your activity, which we call understanding, but it is a preparation to experience the model itself, which we call knowing. Knowing with a capital K because it's the object of knowledge. So the quote Socrates that's misquoted from Socrates is, "I am the wisest man in Athens." Now on Facebook, your grandma will say, "Oh, Socrates said he's wiser because he knows nothing." No, that's a lie. The actual quote was, "I am the wisest man in Athens because I know what knowing is. So I know what's knowable. What makes me wiser is I'm not going to be tricked or I'm not going to mistake something that isn't even knowable for an object of knowledge. So it's not that he knows nothing, it's he knows what is not knowable. So the Greek word for this model, apprehended directly, let's write this on the board. So we've got two circles. We've got model and copy. Model and the activity based on the activity. We also have a model and activity based from the world of appearances. So notice greater and lesser, model and activity. Notice by having two classes, we have a greater and lesser version of model and activity. So we can say, don't knock my coffee over. I did a spill the other day. And to that we say,
She's like a cold-hearted cunt.
it's a bit harsh, just for spilling my coffee.
I love this guy.
Yeah, I love this guy. Greater and lesser. Greater and lesser. But also, greater. This is the principle of analogy. Terms vary, but relations stay the same. What's the ultimate relationship that applies to all relationships? So all analogies, king is to a shepherd. Well, king is greater. King is to his people as shepherd is to a sheep. King is greater. Shepherd is lesser. Tony Hawk is to his nollie kickflip as I am to my nollie kickflip. Greater and lesser. I am the greater.
You just blow in from Stupid Town?
No, that's fair enough. He is the greater. My nollie kickflip isn't so great. Greater, lesser. So greater, lesser, model activity. Greater, lesser, the realm of mind, or the realm of being, has an existence non-physically, and the lesser, the realm of appearances or physical appearances, the physical realm, that you can watch this stream in. So there's not all bad. You can still watch the stream, right?
I love this guy.
Yeah. Whoops. Damn it. Got it. Okay, so the lesser realm of physical, physical, appearances, or the realm of becoming. Everything is in change. See, greater, lesser, greater, lesser. What we're doing is we're recognizing that this model that we've been writing on the board is the greater model. We can call it knowledge with a K. The Greek word is nous for that. You could also say, hang on a second, the apprehension of that model, in other words, the end result, the goodness that we seek in reflecting on the model, is not just the perfection of our activity, thinking better, but it's directly apprehended as well. That's ousia. The sense that we have, that we can use our mind, the sixth sense. Get M. Night Shyamalan on the phone. Because it's our sixth sense. Reflect upon it, ousia. And the activity is, well, understanding. So we're using a capital U because it's a specific kind of understanding. It's not understanding how to do a nollie kickflip, it's understanding the model of mind itself. Understanding. So the capital U, or let's use the Greek word dianoia. 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 Dianoia? Philodianoia, love of understanding. That's what we're doing here. Another way of talking about the activity is logos, language, conversation, reflection, seeking our highest benefit. Our activity is logos. Therefore, the model is the ousia-ing of the model of logos. So you could actually say the logos is also the model. But actually our use of logos is to use it to reflect on ourselves. So that's a different kind of ousia. There's an all-at-once ousia with the model, and an activity-based or a time-based, part-based, so whole and part, greater and lesser. Experience the logos as a sameness. Understanding, experience it as a series of differences. So we're using the lesser and greater, the principle of lesser and greater, applied to all of these pairs of thinking terms to recognize, hang on a second, the model is the whole, the activity is the part. Knowledge is knowing it as a whole, understanding it is using it as a part. But because we have the model, we can perfect our activity, our reflection and understanding, by recognizing it's everything in this list. So therefore, knowledge, ousia, the model, would be experiencing the logos as a sameness, as a likeness. You are at rest, you've reached your goal. You've completed the work of knowing the model. It's infinite. And it transcends time, it's universal. Whereas understanding uses your state of mind or your knowingness of the whole to benefit the parts. That's the art of dialectic. To benefit everyone. Yay, it's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win. To help people in the world of differences. Everyone's different problem. People who are unlike the model. You can benefit them through understanding. In motion, in time, solving your blocks or limits. So this side is the activity, this side is the model. And the name for the two together, wisdom. So they're both a self-reflection or ousia, and they are both the logos, but while ousia and logos are together, ousia more purely defines the knowingness all at once, and logos more accurately defines the use of language and reason and dialectic. Equally so, so if this is wisdom, these two together, wisdom, knowledge and understanding, nous and dianoia, that's wisdom. Wisdom, damn it. wisdom. We recognize that the cause of human problems is the lesser derivation or copy or distorted reflection of the greater. Again, lesser to greater, false to truth. The model, belief. Spam.
I hate to have to tell you this. That was fake. That was AI.
AI spam in the chat.
But that's funny. It's like the whole business model is like, hey, we can trick the platforms, and then hopefully we can trick people into thinking that these are people like.
And to you we say,
Whore.
You have the brain of a child if you think that.
you have the brain of a child if you think that.
I don't know if you know this, but like weird dudes exist
Weird dudes exist everywhere, and that's
But
you.
that's funny. It's like the whole business model is like, hey, we can trick the platforms, and then hopefully we can trick people into thinking that these are real people to do like this.
And that's a bad business model, and we think
whore.
about you doing that business model. Speaking of model, so belief. Therefore, the cognitive function of belief is a distortion or a lesser version of the real use of our mind understanding. It's based on physical appearances, and it generates a false model about self and reality. Our harmful activity is therefore strict dualism or denying or rejecting or vilifying, making it a bad thing, sinful thing, self, reality, or mind, or the universal principles. Okay, that's a lot to write down. So the name for that deny or reject all of those beneficial things in opposition to goodness, to wholeness, to justice. Self and mind. We can call that strict dualism. There are only parts, there is no whole. While belief is a cognitive function that's actively seeking to destroy the whole. So that's ignorance. The cause of human problems, therefore, is nothing other than the necessary aspect of reality that is based on a false model, causing a false activity, the self-fulfilling prophecies. So, pick any culture, the Jewish culture. What's their thing? We are perpetual victims. So what do they go out and do? Do a genocide, murder children, starve children to death, bomb people, exploit all the American politicians through their, scandals. So what does everyone do? Hey, don't do a genocide. What do the Jewish people say? Oh, look, I guess it was a self-fulfilling prophecy that we are the victims. Cry bullying. We are the bullies, but we cry. This is the nature of belief. So the right-wingers, same thing. The snowflakes. You're all snowflakes, they say, as they act as snowflakes. Don't call us Nazis. You project your model onto the world, and then you respond according to that model. You do the bullying, and then you feel like you're the one bullied. So your activity is reflecting on the model. Your thinking and perception and activity experience, perception, understanding, is reflecting on that model, and you get better at being a Nazi, get better at being a fascist, get better at being a crybaby. So in other words, we are always using our human activity to reflect on a model which perfects the activity and supports that model and brings us closer to that model. In other words, a kind of meditation on a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's the cause of all human problems, ignorance. And we recognize that ignorance as that model and copy, that self-fulfilling prophecy, that projection of that model onto reality, as nothing other than the lesser of the greater. A lesser imitation through belief and rejection of the whole. Strict dualism, materialism, there's just the physical world of appearances, as a lesser copy of the true model, knowledge, and our true activity, understanding. So while one benefits, one does harm. Or goodness. So all of the monads you can apply to this model, greater and lesser. Let's take goodness. Wisdom brings about a goodness or benefits. Ignorance, belief in materialist thinking, brings about harm, badness, the lesser of the goodness. Justice. The greater is the model of justice, the universal principles to create a utopia or to the excellence of mankind. The lesser is fake justice, pseudo-justice, the cause of their injustice, a fake model of justice. Individually, we get that from our parents or parental surrogates when we're young. Collectively, that false belief is projected into politics because you don't need understanding in politics. You just say, well, I believe, blah, 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 blah. You don't need to benefit everyone. A pilot can't use belief. He has to use understanding, and he has to benefit. Notice, you can only benefit in the greater. That's goodness, the greater. But you can harm with belief. That's the lesser of the monads. So all of these monads here, you can apply the lesser, harm instead of benefit, badness instead of goodness, ugly. So that's why belief is the cause of ugliness, injustice, badness, etc. So politicians are not benefiting anyone. We're wondering why. Here's why. Because unlike a surgeon, a mechanic, an architect, they don't require understanding for some fucked up reason. Well, the reason is we have to recognize this model. We have to do this. So every person. So we can demand it. Oh yeah, everyone needs understanding. No, but my mama said that the whites are the master race and women need to know their place. Oh, that harms everyone who's not white. And, well, actually harms everyone. And it harms women as well. And men too. So, harm. You know who else doesn't require understanding and doesn't have a obligation, a legal obligation to benefit the members under their rule? Religion. So our personal, and parents. Parents don't need to understand. They harm their kids all the time. So, individual problems is the appearance of a model from childhood, the imitation of parental figures who pretend to be a knower. And then they grow up to be adults and they say, well, it's not just my beliefs, it's God's beliefs. Religion, it's not just my beliefs, it's the law. Politicians currently are projecting their own personal beliefs onto the collective, universalizing their beliefs instead of the greater use of the mind, understanding to reflect on the model that is universal itself, to establish universal healthcare, universal income, universal wealth equality, universal everything, housing, universal clean air. You want clean air just for the rich? That's stupid. You want laws just for the poor people? No, that's stupid. Universal. It's just that simple. Understanding is to recognize the universality, which perfects our activity. So that's wisdom, that's ignorance. Wisdom can solve problems by even looking down and understanding the root causes of the benefit of belief, which is what we're doing now. So wisdom can purify our ignorance and perfect our wisdom, perfect our understanding and knowing. Usia and Logos. Ignorance is in opposition to that. We will kill Socrates if you're a believer. Why? You won't understand why, but an understander can. Because when you were developing understanding as a kid, your parents came in and said, fuck you.
I don't know if you know this, but like, weird dude. You moron. You absolute fucking buffoon. You goddamn idiot.
Your parents said something to that effect to you, and they appeared to be knowing that's your model. That's why we are in opposition to our benefit. Which is why Asmongold has 50,000 Twitch viewers, and I have sometimes like 20 people will watch the vlogs. So 20 is lesser than 50,000. Or usually in the chat it's like 1 or 0, which is even more lesser. That's where we are as a species. Because there is a specific use of the logos or dianoia, the dialectic, to purify our false beliefs, otherwise we will be ruled by it. That's our problems. You can't just step out of them, or as the Oracle says,
the problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
Can't reason yourself out of a position you didn't reason yourself into. In other words, you have to learn the dialectic to trace this or the origin of your belief back to its cause. So, wisdom and ignorance. Wisdom purifies our problems, perfects our excellence. Ignorance is in opposition to it in principle. It's not a blame game. We all get beliefs. We just have to create the conditions in our lives, in our relationships, and then ultimately in our society for the activity of philosophical midwifery, which is this activity, the greater activity, used to apply to remove the cause of our problems. That would be a just world, a just relationship, a just way of living for yourself. And by the way, dream analysis is necessary. You'll get specific clues in how to address and discover that false belief through your dreams. So a just world would be everybody doing dream analysis before morning tea time. Whether it's a politician, a professional, your relationship, students, everyone. Oh, and dreams also give you not just these states of mind of belief and this activity, the drama of that belief playing out in your dreams. It also gives you these states of mind of the greater and drama showing the activity of that model. So dream analysis is therefore a learning and spiritual yoga or method for the perfection of wisdom and the purification of ignorance. It's a win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win.
And win-win-win-win.
I'm going to get you. I'm going to find you. And I'm going to get you.
Going to get you beliefs and removes the... We're going to get the beliefs and remove them. Right?
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
Emma keeps telling us that. How could we forget, Emma? Keep reminding us. So, we can take this and recognize, hang on a second, we could draw a circle around these two and say, hang on, hold on a goddamn minute. These two here, the model and activity here, is the whole of all parts, meaning we should make it thicker. This is what she said.
You just blow in from Stupid Town?
Sorry about that.
You have the brain of a child if you think that.
What color? How about this one? So we have... I use yellow because it's... So let's have this overlap here. And an overlap here. Because we didn't remove the spam. Delete spam.
But that's funny. It's like the whole business model is like, hey, we can trick the platforms, and then hopefully we can trick people into thinking that these are real people to do like this.
All right, so we can have a Venn diagram. Because if the model of knowing or nous or ousia, the model of wisdom, and the activity from that, understanding, dianoia or logos, if this is the whole of parts, we have whole of parts, or another version of greater and lesser. Greater and lesser. Only in this set we have whole as the greater for this here, and parts for this circle. Dance, 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 dance. It's a dance party.
I think it's so awesome.
Dance party. So all of those monads that we've derived from that class of understanding, whole, parts, same, different, apply here. Because if it's universal, it also has to apply universally to reality, but also to these cognitive functions, materialism, belief, understanding, or knowing. Also, stages of development they are. Sound like Yoda then. So, if this greater is Socrates and this lesser is Jesus to personify wisdom and ignorance, we have a question. Let's say we've done that. Let's say we've done this work, we've reflected on the model, up here, the categories of understanding and thought and perception as well. We've put it into a map as we've done here. We've recognized we've used greater and lesser all the way through. And we've applied greater and lesser to all of those duads, whole, same, like, parts, different, unlike. We've applied all the monads to the lesser injustice or fake justice, fake beauty, the greater, the model of self-beauty, self-justice. But that means we have two big question marks. What is the model here? Not as the model of mind or being, but what is the model here and the activity here? The part of the whole that's not parts. So if we have lesser and greater applied to lesser here, ignorance, belief, model, and activity, greater here, knowing and understanding, model, activity, we need a word for this realm here. For there to be lesser and greater applies to oneness and goodness and truth. For there to be a oneness, a whole of all parts, there has to be first the principle of one. So even oneness is a kind of adjective. So all of these terms are adjectives or descriptors that we experience as adjectives or descriptors in the physical world of appearance as the lesser. But understanding is asking, what is their noun? What is the substantive? That's using understanding to get the model of understanding, knowing, mind, but also the penultimate experience of enlightenment. Says the book. So what's whole itself? What's part itself? What's same itself? What's difference itself? What are these things as nouns? Substantives. All of these things are the members of the class, and the leader of the class is oneness. These are all needed for oneness. These are all needed for goodness, justice, beauty. And lesser, greater is needed for truth, because the model is more true than its copy. But hang on a second, the leader's oneness, that sounds like an adjective. Goodness sounds like an adjective. Truth sounds like an adjective. So while all of the members are nouns, substantives that we experience in the physical world as adjectives, the leaders are also adjectives. So we need to go one step up. So if our ability to apprehend the model of mind, the model of understanding, justice itself, is the whole of all parts, the overlap of this Venn diagram here, we need to recognize that all of those substances are within a class within a class which is an adjective, as an adjective describing all of those nouns. Oneness, goodness, truth. We therefore need to move to, what's the noun that allows for the adjective of oneness? One. The noun that allows for goodness as an adjective, what's the substantive? Good. Truth, true. So what is the model of the substantives the nouns for one, good, and true? Can we add in ousia and logos? Seeing as this is an activity of ousia? Or in other words, so we need a word now, don't we? We need a word that points to, if this is the greater and this is the lesser, what's this realm? Is there another word that we can use here? All of these model words, whole, part, same, different, beauty, justice, are expressions of self. When we look for the noun of whole and part, we're looking for it itself. Not it as a descriptor, adjective, but what is it itself? Self beauty, self justice. So what is the highest adjective that applies universally to even the model? Self. In other words, even in that model of the whole of all parts, we're using the word self as a descriptor. Itself experiencing itself as the highest adjective. The reflection of self, the first creation of self. Mind is the adjective of self in the highest way. Therefore, in our activity of growth to move from appearances to reality, from lesser to greater, from copy to model, from adjectives to noun, from appearances to substantives, we also have to make that same journey here. So as we move from ignorance to wisdom, or Jesus to Socrates, we also have to move from Socrates, the adjectives of self, mind or being, to the substantive of self. And as in our Venn diagram it shows, we've got, if all reality is a expression of these pairs, whole, part, same, different, the top of the Venn diagram is the whole that's not touched by parts. We've got the model of wisdom and the activity of understanding, or knowledge and understanding, as the overlap. And of course, ignorance is belief in opposition to the whole. I don't want universal healthcare. I just want the Jews to have it. I just want the Christians to have it. I just want the rich to have it. I just want the capitalists to have it. That's going to fuck up the world. To that we say,
Disgusting.
so disgusted.
Whore.
And you
Bitch.
are bitch. So our job as human beings is to say, yeah, okay, that's true. This is always true. This is not just an opinion, it's understanding. Therefore, it'll be true for any planet, any species. So let's throw the word universal in front of everything. Universal healthcare, universal income. And our job as human beings is to surface all of the individual beliefs, all of the different clan beliefs that will surface in opposition to what benefits mankind. I don't want universal healthcare. Really? Why? No, it's not. I'm not blaming you. We need to surface where the fuck you got this belief that's in opposition to your benefit and our whole fucking race. Why would you be a dog trying to destroy dog kind? Why would you be a human trying to destroy humankind with this belief that's in opposition to universal benefit? That can only bring about conflict and war and inevitable extinction. This is what it means to fucking grow up. So all of the establishment left who say, oh no, all beliefs are equal and everyone is right every time, but let's all compromise with the fascists. Let's do a little bit of concentration camps. Let's do a little bit of genocide. Let's do a little bit of wealth inequality. Fuck you, that's a problem.
Fuck you. Actually, fuck you.
Actually, fuck you.
No.
I don't know. But we do know. We're having fun here. So our human responsibility and job or purpose is to surface all of the individual clan-based beliefs that will come up in opposition to universal goodness and benefit, because that's what belief is. It is a specifically cognitive function defined by a false model of appearance based on appearances that functions in opposition to the whole, to universal principles, to understanding and knowing. Okay? Great. So that's our job now. Put the word universal in, create the conditions for the development of this learning, activity, reading the books we're doing here, philosophical midwifery and philosophy, the dialectic. So every school is about the dialectic. Dream analysis before morning tea time. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Win.
But now that we've understood the nature of human conflict, it is a war against mind, against reality, against benefit, against goodness, against truth, or a war of ignorance in opposition to wisdom. That's the human condition up till now. But now, thanks to this banger of a book that we are reading together, bang so hard,
You'll get a bunch of views.
that'll get us a bunch of views. Thanks to this banger book, we don't have to play it out anymore. We don't have to do another religion or another political party or another genocide or another war or another crusades or another extinction for another species, us. That's it. We can have fun now. So once we've recognized that wisdom, ignorance, or personified in this book, mythologically, Socrates and Jesus, okay, done. Now what? We can go from the conflict between lesser and greater as a necessary stage of development to now we need the triad. We've got a bunch of duads, pairs that explain the content of perception and reality. We have a bunch of monads, goodness, truth, benefit, excellence, justice, that explains what we seek. Sorry, what we desire, but what we seek the truth. Now we have a triad. Lesser, greater, but for there to be a principle of model copy, there has to be a cause for that. What causes there to be a model copy creation? A greater, lesser? The word we're using, ultimate. Ultimate. And we can understand it as the ultimate application of the monads. So the lesser goodness, the lesser justice, or the fake or the imitation of lesser of justice is the lesser of the monads. The monads kinds of goodnesses here. The lesser of those is belief and ignorance. Wisdom, knowledge and understanding is the greater model of those. Meaning the ultimate justice, ultimate beauty, ultimate goodness is here. So by applying the triad of truth, again, building block of understanding and perception and reality, all we're doing is this activity here, reflecting on the model, which perfects our activity, which allows us to understand the condition of man and what happens once we're free of this stage. So we're applying that triad term, ultimate, to those monads to recognize the nature of this goal. What goal? This model and activity, ultimate benefit, ultimate excellence, etc. And therefore we can use this Venn diagram to understand what it is. It's this part of the duads that's not touched by the lesser. So every whole that we've experienced has been defined in terms of its duad. This is a whole of parts. Now in the physical world of appearances, we use our mind to infer. If I say, hey look, you see these parts, right? But you use your mind to infer the whole. You infer the butt, even though you don't see the butt.
I don't know if you know this, but like weird dudes exist everywhere.
I am not a weird dude because I'm talking about his butt.
Oh, enough of this crap, you know?
Okay, enough.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance.
So now we can use these pairs to understand what our ultimate goal is, our ultimate benefit is. It's a whole that's not parts. It's the same that's not different. So all of these greater terms defined in a unique way. Normally we talk about one defined by the other, but also it's not a one, it's a one of them. Like in our mean analogy, Socrates is the same as Diotima because he's like Diotima, and in being the same, he's the whole of her way of being. So it's all of these greater terms as a one defined differently so there's two kinds of wholes. There's a whole of parts, and there's a unique kind of whole that's also the same, like rest, unlimited and out of time, and can't be touched by those things, by part and difference, as explained in this Venn diagram. So while this model of knowing, or nous or ousia, is the penultimate or second last, we have the word ultimate for this model, or self, as a substantive, because all of the substantives in mind, self-beauty, self-justice, self-whole, self-part, self was being used as an adjective. So the same way we got to the model by looking at the nouns or the substantives, so too do we have to go to the nouns that are describing the nouns, self. The one self, the true self, or the good self. So it's some sort of self that's a substantive that is one, good and true, but all at once. Without parts, without any difference, without a manyness, without an otherness. So it's self without other. But also has to contain inherently within it everything needed for it to unfold or reflect into the whole of all parts. If the whole of all parts is a looking at itself in the mirror or the shadow, so it's not model to copy creation, that's greater to lesser, it's you to your shadow. It's an instantaneous. So we can also talk about the self, this model and activity being instant. And we're also looking at, hang on a second, this refers to time. So the instant exists between each moment of physical appearance in time. The physical appearances, like a film strip we call the now, that emerges from the instant and returns into the instant, giving us the flashing movement of time, meaning this goal that we have. Once we realize that the prior condition of man was a war against wisdom caused by ignorance, by simply using understanding to reflect on the model of understanding, we can understand the entirety of human conflict. It's just there on the board, so we don't have to be babies stuck in it once we've understood it. Now we can engage in the greater activity, the ultimate goal, self, reflecting on itself, to know itself. Know thyself. Wow. And that's our task. How do we know ourselves? How do we go from self as an adjective, even in the model, to self as a noun? Using this word ultimate that somehow brings it all together into a one, that's good, that's true, but without difference. And by the way, we have the opportunity to experience it in each moment, because the instant is without qualities, but is the cause instantaneously of each moment. That's how each moment is so perfectly organized. So it's the highest kind of intelligence. If this model of mind is intelligence itself, and it's just a reflection, imagine the kind of intelligence required to create every movement 30-something times a second, like a film strip, but keep everything fitting in order. But every soul, all of your hopes and dreams and thoughts, keeping that consistent. Your problems, keeping that consistent. But also allowing for development, communicating to you providentially at the same time. That is the greatest kind of instantaneous, providential, caring intelligence that transcends all parts, all duality. And we have the capacity to experience the self in the instant. It's always open to us. You don't have to pay a subscription. You don't have to buy a franchise from a capitalist. You don't have to be born into the right religion or bullshit like that. It's every moment, and it's the self. The instant emerging somehow through the model of being, instantaneously knowing it, because it uses the model to judge, to create the next moment. That's the self in the instant. That's our goal. Therefore, now we can understand what Socrates means by the ultimate way of being, that even Socrates personifying wisdom and Jesus personifying ignorance or belief would be followers of this ultimate way of being, putting an end to the human war against the mind, because we've seen it, we've understood it. We've also understood what we need to address it. We've understood that our purpose is to surface all human clan beliefs that are part of our evolution from our barbarian, savage caveman ancestry before language and reflection. Blind loyalty to cave leader. Cave leader is good. Everything outside cave bad. I hate everything other. Booga, booga, booga. Which is what religion and right-wing politics makes use of. Look at that person. They're a different shape and color. They're different from your family way of being. Hate them. Fear them. Who would win in a 1v1 MMA match? Jesus or Muhammad? No miracles. Ooh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. Maybe Jesus would win because he would forgive Muhammad for engaging in violence. He would use a Naruto-style talk no jutsu. Oh, that's an interesting question. So, recognizing that this blind allegiance to tribe leader is the cause of all human problems. Right now, at the time of recording, there are some senators saying, hey, Donald Trump, who's the Nazi, murdering, sending Gestapo KKK people around in masks to rape and murder and enslave whoever they want. That's Nazi shit. As Trump is sending you in to do this stuff, because he's trying to send the American military in to do this, to, torture and terrorize and abuse American citizens, the senator says you have a legal obligation to disobey an illegal order against the Constitution. Trump came out and said, I don't like that. I thought truth was blind obedience to tribe leader, to clan leader. What's this universal principle bullshit? Laws and constitutions. Now we would say we better make sure the laws and constitutions reflect the actual model of the logos, because that's what a species is supposed to do. Do you agree that there are principles and laws of reality? Do you agree that if you don't act in harmony with them, your species goes extinct and suffers in the meantime? Therefore, the universal principle of all laws on all planets for all species is to reflect the laws of reality. That's called the logos, the universal principles that apply to everyone. It's just that simple. It's not hard. And if we recognize that all injustice is what Trump is demanding, blind loyalty to cave leader, and all of his ways of manipulating others is, look, scary brown person, scary immigrant. Everything outside the cave, when we were cavemen, if we thought it was bad and scary and we were blindly loyal to tribe leader before we had intelligence and reflection, those were the animals that survived because they wouldn't venture out of the cave and get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. So in other words, our human problems were a solution to our problems were a solution to an evolutionary problem that no longer applies now that we have logos, the activity, and ousia, the use of the activity to reflect on the self and reflect on the model of understanding. The activity is understanding, the model is knowing, the two together is wisdom. And the imitation of that is our evolutionary ancestry, our past, and our human responsibility is to surface all of those tribe cave beliefs that will surface as we establish universal principles. It's just that easy. Throw the word universal. Universal healthcare, universal. No, I don't think we should have universal healthcare. I think those people should suffer and die. But not you. No, I'm the chosen people. I'm rich, or I'm white. I'm American. See? Fucking stupid. To that we say,
What are you just blowing from stupid town?
what are you blowing from stupid town? So it's stupid. In other words, it's against reason and understanding. That's what belief is, necessarily. If you understood, you wouldn't have to believe the leader. But now that we know that, we don't have to get fucking wrapped up in it. So the next politician that comes along and says, I should be president. Why? Well, I believe. No. Yeah, fuck off. To you, we say,
I don't know if you know. You moron. You absolute fucking buffoon. You goddamn idiot.
Goddamn idiot. Get out of here with beliefs. Your human job is to remove beliefs to develop understanding, which is also a meditation on knowing. which is wisdom. What the fuck are you doing? No, I don't want to do that. I want to pretend I know everything all at once. Based on what? How much work have you done in the dialectic? Perfecting understanding, meditating on the model, and purifying your false imitations of those things' belief. How much work? 20 years? 30 years? No work. But I want to be daddy. I want to beat children like my daddy beat me. Fuck off, Trump. Get to work. Not punishment, but also you don't get to inflict your injustice on others. That's just growing up. But I want to drive. How old are you? 5 years old? Have you learned to drive? No, but I believe I'm a driver. That's a politician. That's a religious official. Religion. Have you learned anything? No, but I believe it. Stupid. So our job is to surface, because the version of them, there is a sameness or a principle behind our ignorance. Our job is to surface the differences. All of the different versions of not helping everyone universally. I think slavery. Why? Jesus? What? I think slavery. Why? White people's brain is bigger? Jordan Peterson told me that. Okay, let's study them. That's our job. That's what human species is for. All this other fucking manipulating people by withholding universal human needs, universal housing, the universal use of technology, universally shared with the universal use of technology to share the universal resources the most efficient way. That's not our fucking job, to withhold that to manipulate people so you can be a fascist, a believer, a child abuser. The American politicians, what do they do when they get around children? When they make laws, take away healthcare, take away human rights, surveillance state? No, that's not your fucking job, you idiot.
She's like a cold-hearted cunt.
No, that's
Fuck
not
you.
right.
Actually, fuck you.
Actually, fuck you. This is your job. Not to pretend you know everything from no reason, belief, but to perfect your understanding by reflecting on the model the way we're doing and using it through the dialectic, philosophical midwifery and dream analysis to purify, and reading these books that we read together here to perfect your understanding and wisdom. It's just that easy. It's just that simple. That's our job. Now, once we are free from that stupid drama of pretending believers should have power and using that to somehow justify not universal anything. Some water for some people, poisoned water for the poor. No, how about universal water, you fucker? It's that simple. Now that we've recognized that, we can go on to say, hey, for there to be this human conflict as a result of the evolution of any intelligent species, or especially ours, because there were certain conditions that allowed for very quick development because of the asteroid that killed the dinosaurs, but that's a different story. For there to be the conditions of lesser and greater, for conflict of the lesser in opposition to the greater, for there to be these cognitive differences. Otherwise, there would not be an existence of belief. The part wouldn't want to be less than the whole, we'd just be the whole. So there is a necessity for the ignorance to exist. But once we've recognized that's just the human condition, the war against wisdom or mind caused by ignorance or belief, that's it. Easy, done, game over. We have to ask the question, what was the cause or the preconditions or the principles needed for there to be ignorance and wisdom? For there to be greater and lesser? For there to be, and that's what we've answered recently in reading this book. Ultimate. The movement from adjectives to substantive. From beauty as a descriptor in the lesser to beauty self beauty as a noun in the in the greater, in mind, the model. Justice as an adjective to self-justice in mind. Excellence as an adjective to self-excellence. And that same movement, the movement from substance, adjective to noun, substantive to, no, descriptor to substantive. Let's just say adjective to noun. That movement from adjective to noun is now done to the adjective needed to distinguish greater from lesser, self-beauty, self-justice. What's the adjective being used? Self. Therefore, the model is simply not model to copy, but self and its reflection. More instantaneous. See, an artist uses a model and copies and has to think and has to judge and has to use things and has to have force and will and has to have power. All of these are qualities that exist in a oneness of whole of all parts, allowing for being to generate or be the model of the physical world. But there's a different kind of creation that we call the instant, like the scent of a flower, your shadow, or your reflection in a mirror. So this adjective is the reflection of self. We want to go from the adjective self-beauty, self-justice to self itself. Once we've got over this drama by realizing it's just the war against mind, ignorance against wisdom, we're now free. We're now free. We can be free.
You know, some people would chase a chimp around. Some people would devote themselves to all kind of science or art or experimentation. Who knows?
Who knows? We're free to chase a chimp around or do science and experimentation. Who knows? But we know, because ultimately what we're free now to do is know ourselves. And if being, or the eternal, so the immortal nature of mind is here, and that's usually where people put God, but there has to be for there to be a God with qualities that creates, there has to be the principle, the higher principle of self. This is the ultimate goal, the ultimate spiritual experience. Well, that's the penultimate, the other one. Ultimate goal, ultimate spiritual experience, the ultimate nature of God, the self. That's the activity we're now free to do as a rational society and rational people. Hey, welcome. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for the follow. So, understanding the cause of all problems, understanding the human condition, ignorance against wisdom. Now we're free to look at the ultimate model, the self. And we can even understand it. I'm a genuine philosophical debating demon, but what we are talking about right now. So, debate is how we're taught to approach our issues. Because debate is, I come in with a belief and I will fight you or be in conflict with you to prove the belief that I came up with or that I came in with, which just becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because I end up more entrenched in the belief that I was fighting for. That's why they send Christians when they're 17 door knocking, the Mormons. Can I tell you about Jesus? You're 17.
I don't know if you know this, but like weird dudes exist everywhere.
You're a weird dude and you exist everywhere. But what happens is when they fight against the people saying, you don't know about reality, you're just a brainwashed kid into your crazy religion. Religion's dumb. Religion is belief. But no, let me debate you. Have you thought about the Bible? Have you thought about the magic and the miracle? That's belief. Belief doesn't solve anything. That's debate. What we are doing is using understanding to follow universal principles through a series of questions, step by step, together in a friendly way that will always lead to the same conclusion because it's truth. That's the dialectic. That's the new game in town. Now, it's not taught. We're taught debate because we're in the tradition of believers. Aristotle, Emperor Justinian, the Third Reich, the church, the religious and political figures all engaged in debate. That's our education. What we have to do is learn the activity of understanding, dianoia, called the dialectic. That's the art that we're here to master. The meaning of life, therefore, is to master the activity of the dialectic, because those same series of ordered reflected questions can surface the root cause of your false beliefs about self and reality that's in opposition to the truth of reality, mind, in opposition to the truth of self, yourself as God, the ultimate. I'm a small bean, I'm a bad noodle, I'm evil, I'm a sinner, I'm not good enough, blah, 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 blah. That's all nonsense. Because you are not just good enough, you are good itself. That's what we're now free to do. And we can only free our problems through the dialectic, and we can only perfect our experience through the dialectic. And that's what we've been doing today. A dialectical reflection, because everything that I've been following has nothing to do with opinion. It's looking at the nouns that are used as adjectives in our world. Whole, part, same, different. And a series of reflective questions that will always come to this conclusion. What conclusion? That there are three fundamental dimensions of reality: the physical world of appearances, the non-physical eternal world realm of mind that you can experience when you separate yourself from the body, and its cause, the instant, which is beyond qualities, but somehow contains everything for the model and the copy, for being and becoming. That's the self. And we can understand it by saying, hey, as the model of everything all at once, the second last or penultimate spiritual experience, as that's the whole of all parts, and our physical world of appearances down here, belief and appearances, only sees parts, there has to be a section of the whole that's not touched by parts. So a whole that's not parts, that's the self. A same that's not difference, that's the self. A like that's not unlike, that's the self. We can use these pairs to understand this part of the Venn diagram for the model of self, which is one itself, good itself, true itself, for its shadow to be the model of truth, goodness, and oneness. That's the self. That's our goal. Know the self. And now that we've understood the nature of all human problems and conflicts, individually and collectively, and the nature of all conflicts of all minds in any galaxy, in any time, in any multiverse, at this stage of evolution, the conflict between the false model and activity based on a shadow or an appearance, based on childhood appearances of parents, projected in politics and religions globally, the nature of the human condition, ignorance against wisdom, blind, savage, Nazi-like loyalty to our false models or ignorance in opposition to our own benefit and goodness. That's the human condition, the war on mind by ignorance or belief. But when we recognize that these are also cognitive functions, that this cognitive function of belief is this unsuspected model of self and reality that's wrong, and the next stage is understanding. That's the art of the dialectic we're mastering, which is perfected by reflecting on the model, which is what we're doing here. We can put an end to our conflict, put an end to our suffering, put an end to the garbage. Now we're free. Our job, therefore, before morning tea time, surface our individual ignorance and collective ignorance and perfect our wisdom. That's dream analysis. That's the dialectic applied to purifying the false and perfecting the true, helped by dream analysis. Now we've done that, everyone, before morning tea time, we've got the rest of the day to do what we're here to do: know the self. The ultimate goal, the ultimate good, the ultimate benefit, the ultimate beauty, the ultimate all of these monads is simply the ultimate applied to all of these monads, and it can be understood as all of these together, different from any other way you've seen whole or same, because it's unique, because it's like unlimited. Let's take that. Everything you've experienced as unlimited, like numbers, is a series of limits. So it's unlimited defined by a never-ending series of limits. Everything you've experienced is one defined by the other. Or it's not free or unlimited because you are limited. You've got a block. But what we're seeing is the self is unlimited, but it transcends limits. But it's also, its shadow causes limits. So while it transcends, it also innately contains the logos. So it's the pure logos inherent in the self. Or to express it in the golden analogy, It's ignorance is to wisdom as wisdom is to self. They're each incommensurate. That's why it's not a pure number. So it's got that decimal point that keeps going and going and going, meaning 61.8 doesn't fit with 1, because 1 is different, but also 1 does not fit with 1.618. In other words, incommensurate, meaning there jumps in reality, jumps in functioning. But the ultimate contains both within it. So somehow the self, while being incommensurate and transcending wisdom and ignorance, the former age of man, the conflict between Socrates and Jesus, between the lands of Judea and the Hellenic tradition, between belief, the cause of human conflict and suffering, and understanding, the cause of excellence and purification. Well, that's A and B. The self somehow contains inherently both within it, contains the conditions and principles for it to unfold as its reflection. A is to B as B is to A plus B. That's the Fibonacci sequence, 1, 1, but then you take these two together, A plus B, to get 2. Then you have the A plus B, 1 plus 2 to get 3, and then 3 plus 2 to get 5, and then 5 plus 3 to get 8. That's the Fibonacci sequence. But again, the Fibonacci sequence is a physical reflection because it's a infinite, unlimited series of relationships, each one being limited. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, etc. Each is a limit, but they're all commensurate because the Fibonacci sequence is a physical reflection of the golden ratio, which is non-physical. It's 6.61.8 is to 1 is to 1.618 is to 2.61, and so on and so on. Notice, none of these numbers fit together. They're completely different realms. So, we have understood the model or all of the Lego pieces or building blocks of understanding and perception and things that exist to bring to birth the triad ultimate term to understand all problems, the lesser of the monads understood by the lesser of these pairs in conflict with the greater, belief in materialism or strict dualism. We've understood our excellence or wisdom, the greater version of these, self-beauty, self-justice, self-goodness, which is the union of them, either all at once in the model of knowing, or the whole and then the part with understanding, the art of dialectic, which we are here to master, the meaning of life, to master the art of the dialectic, to have the whole and providentially affect the parts, rather than belief in materialism, which is the parts antagonistically towards the whole, causing human conflicts and suffering and bloodshed. But also we've brought to birth the ultimate, which is a triad under the realm of truth. A is to B is to C, which is A plus B inherently. Or the logos. Hey, this helps us because we want to know. We've said that there's a model and activity for each of these. The model is ousia, self-reflection. The activity is the logos. But the logos' activity is to self-reflect. You use it to ask, what's the nature of mind? That's you. Well, that's what you have. What's the nature of self? Nature of mind is the activity. Or, and all belief is a false model of self and reality. Those same two things that you reflect on. So the penultimate spiritual experience is ousia, knowing itself as mind, and the ultimate is ousia, knowing itself as self. But in that experience, you recognize yourself and remember yourself. So there is an intelligence or logos. So it's not just ousia, it's ousia and logos. And as we said, the activity is used to reflect on yourself as mind or reflect on yourself as self. That's our excellence. And the other thing is to purify your blocks or problems, which is a block to reflecting on yourself through logos as self and mind. Two versions of God, which is a false belief. I suck. That's a false belief of reality, of self. or reality sucks, or is unknowable, or you can't know, or it's just ununderstandable, or no one can know, no one knows what the meaning of life is, blah, 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 which is a false model of mind. So in other words, either use logos and ousia together, somehow they come together, the activity of logos to know the model ousia of mind or self, or you are going to be a slave to your ignorance, which is a false, doing that anyway, but the false version based on how your parents look. That's it. It's just that fucking simple. But our thing is, hang on a second, if logos is about ousia and ousia is understandable and knowable, then ousia requires logos, or incorporates logos, and logos ousia, they two come together. So the ultimate expression of the golden analogy is, as model, as copy is to model, as logos is to ousia, A is to B, so too self is both together. It's pure logos and pure ousia instantly because there are no parts. As a whole, because there are no parts. You are completely the same as ousia and logos. Ousia and logos are the same because they're not different in self. We can go through all of them. So what are we doing now? We're trying to answer a question of how do we understand what the self is, so we can reflect on it and anticipate it, so we can recognize it and prepare for our experience of it in the instant. In other words, it's always there, instant. The instant unfolds like a film strip. So all it depends on is if we're ready for it, we are getting ready for it. That's what we're doing. That's the purpose. That's what we're here for. So what will it be? It'll be logos, activity, understanding, acting, and knowing the model, ousia, as a whole, instantly, because there are no parts. They'd both be the same because ousia at the self, that would mean ousia and logos are not different. The model and activity is not different. It's a pure ousia, but it's also a pure understandable because there are no parts, so there's no difference. Logos and ousia would be like themselves, but that would mean when you recognize the self, you've seen the model ousia and logos, and you recognize they're not actually unlike each other at the level of self. They unfold into like and unlike, model and activity, but the self is one. Because it's not many. Self and ousia are together at rest because there's no motion. It's cause of motion. It unfolds into A and B. Logos and ousia, model and copy. And then in another way, wisdom and ignorance, but not what we're talking about now. Logos and ousia are completely free to be themselves. Why? Because they're not limited. They're not even limited by being different parts, being different or parts or unlike. So you can even build them together into a full sentence. Hey, logos and ousia are completely free because they're not limited by any unmotion, by being unlike or different parts. You're out of time in a free kind of way where you're always at peace and like yourself because you're always the same as yourself instantly as a whole. Because there is nothing in time that can participate in limits or motion because you're never unlike or different as parts. Have fun with it. Build a sentence comparing one against the other, incorporating all of them. And we can play with the highest possible terms. So use these two sets to explain ultimate goodness by linking them into a sentence to explain A and B. Logos and ousia. How is logos and ousia the whole? Instantly. Or one true or good. A and B. Let's take one. Hey, the one is also good. Instantly. Why? Because the instant takes the instant in time. One is one and good instantly. Why? Because they're not different. because they're not unlike, because there's not parts. That's the nots. But take the positive. One and good are the same because they're a whole, as the same and like each other, completely at rest, freely, infinitely, out of time. So you're linking A and B together inherently as a one and seeing it's the ultimate principle of true and good as well. Logos and ousia. That's how we can meditate, or the activity of self to reflect on self as God. The ultimate active, or God's a loaded term. Reflect on self as the ultimate. Everything else is its shadow, or its shadow reflecting on itself in understanding and knowing to create a copy. And all human problems is a fake copy based on a lesser imitation of that belief. So now we have the 3 stages of human development. We all are born into a family where we get ignorance. The human conflict is a war between ignorance and wisdom, Jesus and Socrates. And now we have a 3rd category, self, or ultimate, which is somehow logos and ousia together, or model and copy together, which doesn't make sense because that's what we have to get puzzled about. So this was the former age of man, the war on mind. And our current age is to wonder about the ultimate self and wonder how model and copy can be one, like the golden analogy. That's our wondering. That's our job. That's the meaning of life. Required to do it is to master the dialect. So you can say the meaning of life is to master the art of the dialectic. Another way of saying the same thing is say, in order to end the war on mind by understanding the nature of wisdom and ignorance, and our job as individuals and as a race, to surface our own individual beliefs and all human family clan beliefs, to purify ignorance through the dialectic and perfect wisdom through the dialectic. As a prerequisite, or before morning tea time, to then go on to wonder about the ultimate self and how the model and copy can be one that transcends both. That's the meaning of life. For everyone, hooray for us. And all we needed to do to go through it is to use our language, logos, and reflect on ourselves as mind, or the model and the self. So all we had to do was just use logos and ousia. The better we do it, the more we can perfect that activity of using logos and ousia, the dialectic. So we've done a few episodes in a row where we've just been practicing this ultimate dialectic. Because that's our activity. It's what we do here. And everything so everything up until the last week of episodes has been this: understanding excellence and problems, Jesus and Socrates. So all of that, so you could say the first 80 episodes of the series has been before morning tea. Now we're doing the afternoon session. Free to do the high stuff, the good stuff, the ultimate stuff. So we are demonstrating what we're defining as the meaning of life on this channel. In other words, it's a
win-win.
It's a win-win. Definition and demonstration. Right, RM?
Cool as a cuke.
Cool as a cuke. Us here. Pretty cool. As a cuke? Some would say. So yeah, we're wondering how model and copy can be one. Or how one true and good could be one. And what is it like to see the self as the instant? and recognize yourself as not just this kind of God, penultimate God, but ultimate God. Wow. That's the meaning of life. Pretty neat. But all life, by principle. That's the thing about having principles and universal models. So all we had to do was utilize what we have evolved into, language and ousia, or self-reflection and language, ousia and logos, and have the desire to not just use it a little bit to debate our opinions with our debate bros, but to master it. Not just have the feeling of superiority when you own someone in a debate, but to actually care about our fellow man and actually care about solving problems. So to actually care about all of these good things, to have our excellence, not mediocrity, to actually benefit people, not be a dick, to want beauty, to become beautiful, to have beautiful relationships and recognize the highest beauties in others, to create a just world, just self relationship, just activity. So to seek, all we had to do was seek these monads or goodnesses, which we have which we have anyway, but to seek to have all of them and perfect them with understanding and the true version of it. So bringing the three parts of our soul together, to seek the ultimate truth, to desire the ultimate goodness, and to master ultimate understanding. That's all we needed to do. And by having that desire to unify our soul and the forces of soul in that way, we can make use of language and ousia, or language and reflection, logos and ousia. And the how we did that was at each stage moving from adjective to noun, from a descriptor to a substantive, adjective to substantive, from beautiful examples to beauty itself, from just examples to just itself or self-justice, and from self-beauty and self-justice, self as adjectives to self as a substantive. That's it. Adjectives to nouns, baby. Or lesser to greater, or copy to model. We're reverting through the unfolding process using analogy. So now we understand, hey, people say thinking is analogy and IQ tests are just analogy questions, really. There's a guy who taught at Golden West College. He taught a class on, I guarantee I'll raise everyone's IQ points by 50 by the end of the year. And he did, because all he did was help people understand analogies, because that's what all IQ tests are. But now we know why analogies are understanding. It's the unfolding of this triad from the ultimate into the shadow of the greater, into the copy of that model lesser. That's unfolding of reality, of the whole and part Venn diagram, providing the three kinds of goodnesses. And it's also our return. So we're going from the copy, ignorance, belief, to the model, understanding, knowing, wisdom, our excellence, then to that which transcends but somehow contains the conditions for all, the self, the ultimate. From copy to model, or from adjective to substantive. That's what we've been doing. So, by seeking our greatness with integrity, seeking truth, and using our understanding, we've moved from substantives to adjectives, making use of our highest faculty, logos and ousia, to recognize the nature of all human problems, the previous age of mankind, the human condition being a war in the mind, how to end it, how to get over it. Now that we're over it, what's our real purpose or our ultimate purpose? We've understood our meaning of life. Now let's do it. Now that we've put baby to bed, the conflict between ignorance and wisdom, let's move on to the real fun.
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder?
Right here. The the real joy and whimsy and childlike wonder, the wonder about the self, the wonder about how it can be one in the instant, in the cause of everything, how you can be God, because you are. So it's the new class of man no longer this kind of man reflecting on himself in this conflict, but man reflecting on himself as God. That's the ultimate way of being. That would make even Jesus and a Socrates a follower. Let's jump into that, right?
I think it's awesome.
I also think it's awesome. So that's where we are. That's how we got there. Congratulations to everyone who's with us. Whoops. I hope you're having fun. Now let's jump back into the text and keep reading about this ultimate goal. Let's go for it. Let's jump in. Whoa. Transition. All right. Now, we're at the end. So, everything we've put together about this ultimate goal and ultimate state of man. That's where we are in the text. Let's jump in here. Jesus. I like what you do, Socrates, says Jesus. You raise the issue to a higher level. Then I will have to be careful how to represent this new category. Oh, what is it? A new category of man that just may doom all others. A new kind of philosophy. If I cite the major ideas of our candidate, and you tell me if he belongs in your camp or mine, surely that means I will have to do justice to what I select and offer it to you for your comments. So then, let me ask you, if a new idea of man is brought forward that clearly announces a new kind of divine / man-like activity, would not that mean that the divine or God has made man to no longer reflect on himself as man, but as a God, whose activity is in the sphere of this new man? So, former nature of humans, the conflict, the war on mind, ignorance in opposition to wisdom, but now we're reflecting on ourselves as this ultimate divine activity as God, or the whole without parts. What is going on here? You are approaching this problem as I would have liked to. You single out the idea of activity that we have discussed and link it to a very profound idea. I am always curious about the use of the term God, but here you advance it under the banner of a new candidate. Is it equally certain that your source also advances the idea of ousia, or substance, in the way we have discussed it? You are correct in that, because he does use the idea ousia, or substance, what we've been calling the model, the substance, ousia, but also the capacity to know it. The mystery of the identity of our candidate can be further deepened if I share with you his understanding of this remarkable term ousia. Please do that. I am more than amazed and wait to hear more. I agree, this term is essential to our philosophy. And to learn more of its meaning would delight me. I've upgraded my stuffy. Mega stuffy. Mega stuffy. I'm gonna see if I can cuddle mega stuffy while I read. If it's practical. It would delight me, Jesus. If the idea of goodness and even godliness merely suggests that the good and God were their source. All right, so we've been talking about the model of wisdom being here, goodness, oneness, truther, implying the good, the one, the true, ultimate ousia and its activity logos. But he's saying, hey, this could also say godliness. Being is godly. It's doing godly things. It's generating the physical world, reflecting on itself as the model. So from, hey, welcome. Welcome, Isidori. But he's saying, hey, just as goodness implies the idea of good, so too godliness implies the idea of God, allowing us to have godliness as our second last or penultimate spiritual experience, and God as the ultimate. The two fundamental classes of spiritual experiences, mind or godliness and self-God. And by the way, we're all doing it anyway, only all other people who haven't woken up to this purpose is doing a false meditation on a false belief about themselves and a false belief about reality. Becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's the nature of our problems. So in other words, we're doing it anyway, we're just learning how to do it properly. In other words, you're humans anyway, you might as well listen and do the human meaning of life because you're going to be in human life anyway, so. Goodness and godliness suggests that the good and God are their source, but you fail to grasp what ousia is. Why? Because it is the power of ousia's reversion that makes others good and godlike. Just as our activity in the last few streams, reflecting on or reverting on the source, perfects our activity, perfects our state of being, perfects our activity through understanding, but ultimately now perfecting our activity of self. So its reversion makes others, and others as well, makes others good and godlike while their source is beyond the very idea of source. It's beyond the whole of all parts. It is this essential divine substance or ousia that has taken on an existence in our world. So a kind of ousia that applies to this model. In the new class of man. However, if it takes on an existence among us, among us. Right? Among us? Right? Because it's sus, remember? Right?
Cool as a cuke.
Are we cool as a cuke?
Fuck you. Actually, fuck you.
We have fun here. If ousia takes on an existence among us, then by what means does it accomplish this? Says Socrates. So Jesus is leading the conversation. This is a bit weird. It is that which in man has been concealed and is now present as we enter into its secret ways of being. Ooh. Well, there is nothing I can say about this. I applaud to the skies. What you are saying. As you have said, the power of ousia brings us to reflect and turn about, and that begins the awakening, the name of the channel. brings the awakening of the inner life of philosophy. The good, or the one, is no longer conceived of as remote and transcendent, but near and most essential to us. So, bringing in the idea that there is an ousia of that pure ousia of self up in here, up in here, up in here. There is the ousia of the self as an adjective, mind, the whole of all parts, the model of wisdom. But even in the physical world, we participate in oneness and one because the one, says Jesus, where's Jesus? Come on, Jesus. Because the one shows itself in everything. As we reach out to experience, we do so because we think it's good. So there's the good. It motivates us. The good, which we also call the one. See? Goodness and oneness, qualities here, but the good, the one, are also the same thing. So we're saying it's the same thing. So that's our job. How can we make the ultimate self one, good, true at the same time? Logos and ousia at the same time. That's the wondering that we are engaged in. So we also call it one. It's part and parcel of all we experience, and it is through the power of ousia we realize we're not strangers to the divine. By the intelligence that functions in and through the gap, the instant, the model, the moment, and then the return, each moment like this. All your homies love this one, love the one. All of Isadori's homies love the one.
Brain rot escalates.
For all of the people who don't, they have escalating brain rot. Right?
Wow, now.
I don't know. Good that your homies love it. By intelligence functions through the gap, there appears the moment, an instantaneous event. And it is this that you have spoken of many times as it emerges from the gap, like the gap in the film strip, each moment. And it is this that surrounds whatever is, yet is not in time. So it's also timeless. That fits what we've been saying. This ultimate goal here is defined as the whole that's not parts, or in time that's not out of time. So everything that happens in time is either wisdom or ignorance, the former condition of man. But this new condition of man is the gap that surrounds the instant, whether it's the highest experience instant or our problems because of our ignorance. It's the out of time that's not in time. Whereas eternity as pure mind is the all of time, eternally. So the penultimate and the ultimate, the two kinds of spiritual states of being. So it's not in time, so it's timeless, says Jesus. From its prior pure state, it enters the world and is the very substance of our growth and change of all things. So whatever the instant is, generates the moment, and it's the substance. So if it's everything, if it's one, everything that we see is built of it. So everything is from self, but in self, but as we are reverting in our growth and change, returning to self. So everything is therefore from self, in self, and returning to self. Which helps us, we can wonder about, hey, if A is to B is to C, and the golden ratio says it's A and B is included and in it. Can we apply that here? The unfolding A is to the returning, but the unfolding and returning is all happening from and in self. A and B within, inherent in some higher ultimate way. We can use the golden analogy to wonder about that. Has this candidate of yours said that God dwells invisibly by his own excessive brilliance in the divine luminosity, And does he say that those who are worthy come to know and see God through that divine luminosity? So even in that highest experience, the model experienced as divine luminosity, we can recognize if we're, worthy, if we've been training. Can we look for something even more brilliant and pure inherent in that divine luminosity, so that we can go through it to know its cause? If so, can we see that in all moments? As Jesus said, everything you reach for is the good and the one, and everything is in self. Can we see that there is a, excessive brilliance of the one and the good, everything, in every moment? Could that openness and curiosity and question and wonder be our ticket into the gap? And if the movement from the gap happens from the moment into the instant, that as we pass through the luminosity, can we also keep that wondering about our ultimate goal? So that even in the amazing brilliance and bliss of divine luminosity, we're still looking for the self. Could that be what makes us worthy? Whether it's in the moment or in the transition of the model, we can go through it to the instant. Is that what makes, to have that question about the self? This new category of man? Because the former two had either been in opposition to that, belief and ignorance, or to experience the luminosity, but we want to go through it.
Wow. Wow.
Those who are worthy come to know and see God through that very divine luminosity. Well, Socrates, he has not been hidden from you. Yet it has been said that Dionysius was Paul's companion. Yet he is the one who urges us to speak in defense of truth, and that means, does it not, doing what we are doing now? Same thing for all of you. So congratulations to anyone here doing it. It is as you say, Dionysius we had called the Areopagite, had instructed those about him on the principles of the dialectic. It is not likely that you have learned this art. Is it not likely you have learned this art of dialectic yourself and hidden from me? So Dionysius claimed to be an apostle of Paul to smuggle the dialectic in under the oppression of Emperor Justinian and Christianity and belief, and killing everyone and shutting down the academy and burning libraries and just disgusting abuse. To Emperor Justinian we say, bitch,
you moron, you absolute fucking buffoon, you goddamn idiot.
Goddamn idiot. So Dionysius snuck it into the book. A pause often refreshes the soul, says Jesus. So then, let me in turn ask you if you understand what this Dionysius has said about me. Would you not say that you have come to see me as he saw me? What makes you... Now, what does that make you, my dear Socrates? So, do you see me as wise now, Socrates? Are you my follower, Socrates? I am not far off if I say you either learn quickly, or you have had this dialectical ability all along. So what shall I say? Before I say what I think, I would rather have you discuss further what you can say about our friend, Dionysius the Areopagite. I would like you to review whatever you have seen about his idea of the dialectical logic. Recall that in Mark's Gospel, the keys to solving the esoteric parables for the passageway to the kingdom of God were limited to his inner circle of disciples and their colleagues. the kingdom was not in heaven, but on earth. Not in the future, but in the present. It is the result of training the mind through many readings and reviews like you are doing here. Congratulations to everyone following the channel. That one guy.
What if a chimp had a cell phone? Who would he call?
I don't know. But I do know, well, I am reading. The kingdom of God was not in heaven, but on earth. Not in the future, but in the present. It is the result of training the mind to see a solution to each parable or analogy. For Dionysius the Areopagite, the kingdom of God is open to those capable of participating in it in the instant. The experience itself is that of grasping truth and reality. It unfolds a well-being and goodness from the good. Clearly, Dionysius expresses this idea of the kingdom of God into a higher and more cosmic philosophical idea. And in this moment, he brings his idea of Christianity into a Platonic vision of reality. His vision is deeply indebted to Proclus, and he brought into existence a way to understand the transfiguration, the brilliant light of Jesus, his experience, and how that experience links to all those philosophical terms into a unity. So he's been going on about this model. All of the philosophical terms into a unity in that divine luminosity, which brings about a well-being and goodness, and we've been saying perfects our excellence and justice and beauty, all that well-being and goodness. We want to go through it by training our mind in a certain way to know the instant that's the cause of that penultimate goodness, the good or the ultimate, and recognize that it's inherent to everything we do. Everything we reach for, we think it's one chicken. And we did so because we think it's good. And we want the true chicken. One true good. And its highest experience, oneness, goodness. So there's that well-being and benefit, goodness, and truth of reality. So we can understand what Socrates is saying by having the simple model. 3 stages: lesser, greater, ultimate, or the physical, mind, and self. Each of which have a model and activity, allowing us to recognize stages of cognitive development. Are you a materialist? Are you a believer? Do you love understanding? Have you used that to grasp the model? And can you perfect your understanding to go through the model to know the self? And are there 2 stages here? Or is the model and activity one? Don't know. Lots of questions about this top level. And we've got some more reading to do, so hopefully as we continue to read, we'll be able to wonder about what this is, because that's our job. Put an end to the old ways of being, ignorance and war with wisdom. But now, what's the self? What's the ultimate? What's the one? What's the good? What's the true? What's pure logos? Pure is here. What's the instant? And how do we train our understanding and mind to view it? To know the self. Dionysius' writings gave the opportunity to embrace reason and understanding as the natural corollaries to that mystical experience. Now here comes the haters.
Bitch.
Bring them up. This button. The chorus. Where's my... Oh, here we go.
You need to laugh at this so-called analysis. They are agreeing with the absurd. Imagine for a moment that Mark's gospel rejects Paul, and no one sees it but these two. Why believe that? It is all a matter of faith. I believe it because it is beyond the reach of these intellectuals' phony criticism. I can only warn you against this stuff. Parmenides again and again. Why don't they dump what no one finds meaningful? They appeal to Gnostic John for support. How can a heretic like Gnostic John support Christianity? I'll tell you straight. Sure, Plato's Academy and the other pagan schools of philosophy were closed down. You thinking people in your ivory towers, fuck you. And there was no need to open them up again. Frankly, when a sword is over your head, you'll switch, because whatever you believe in is just as good as anything else.
They don't believe in shit. They know that their stupid beliefs are bullshit. Within their soul, everyone does. That's the nature of our conflict. We don't like that we had to buy into the bullshit, and we know that all the other Christians in the church are different than you. And the pastor is really fucked, kind of, doesn't really know anything. And I've got internet, so I know that the book is full of nonsense and contradictions. And I know there are thousands of different cults and sects out there, so we all know it's horseshit. These guys are saying, but I'm too scared to change. If there's a sword over your head, you'll just accept whatever you're told. No integrity, no principles, no truth. The haters. And now we have the anti-haters. We're going to clap back with facts. The idea of closing down the academy appeals to you because you can't stand differences, can you? You want simple things. You want to hate difference. Look at the shapes and colors. Get mad at differences. You want simple things and hate the complex. Shapes and colors. Like grifters. Look, it's the brown person. It's a woman. Hate them, hate them, hate them. Don't ever address with understanding causes and principles. Demand universal causes and principles for every politician ever. No. Brown. Immigrant. They're eating the dogs. That's the ignorance of belief. To get mad at differences instead of learning to understand. You want things simple and hate the complex. Life is complex. Look around and you'll see that. Look into the souls of those about you, and you'll see the desperate plea for understanding. Not only oneself, but also the nature of reality. We all desperately want to understand ourselves and reality. And belief is nothing other than the false model of both. You don't want to see what is right in front of you, so you create this mask of yours and make believe you're making sense by defending what you don't understand. Clapping back with facts up in here. So, they don't understand their own beliefs. They are mad at differences, and we can trace that back to caveman days. Everything different from the inside the clan of the cave before we had reason and understanding was bad and scary. Throw a rock at it. That's modern day politics and religion. Murder the non-believers, murder the brown people. Same old horseshit. But what's really behind it? Fear. Fear. They fear the complex. They fear using their understanding to make sense of differences. So what do they use to be manipulated? Fear. What do the politicians say? Look, someone who looks different. Look at that shape and colors. They use the idea of difference to promote fear, to manipulate us, to act against their own best interests, which is also demanding universal everything. Universal healthcare, universal housing, universal wealth equality, universal resources, etc. It's always the same. To deny universality by pointing to our fears of difference, which is why they have as their base religious people, believers. So, but if you look around, you'll see everyone is in a desperate plea for understanding. We don't like our beliefs. We don't like our limitations. We don't like our problems. We don't like, as much as we pretend, it's just a fucking mask. We're all suffering and in a desperate plea for understanding self and reality. But instead of recognizing that and seeking our purpose, doing our job, we create a mask that we make believe we're talking sense to defend a mask and defending our stupid ass beliefs that we don't even understand ourselves. That's the nature of human ignorance. That fits down here. A fear of difference, a fear of mind, a fear of self by a false belief. That's our mask. That's the false image of the self that underlies a false belief of reality and causes our activity in opposition to our own universal good. I would rather hurt a brown person than demand universal wealth equality for everyone, says all of the people who've been grifted to by politicians and religious assholes. To them we say,
I don't know if you know this, but like weird whore. She's like a cold-hearted. Oh my fuck.
Oh my fuck to them.
Fuck you. Actually, fuck you.
Actually, fuck you. That's what we say to those people who manipulate our beliefs instead of helping us by creating the conditions for our reflection on belief, which is nothing other than what we all desperately seek: an understanding. So here's belief underneath here. Understanding of what? Mind or reality and ourselves. We all seek that. That's what it means to be alive. To develop our understanding, the mastery of the art of the dialectic. Apply it to know the model of mind, to know, understand, and know, directly experience the nature of reality, which is the second last spiritual experience, and to move beyond that to know its cause, the ultimate self. We want to understand and know self and reality. I enjoy your content. Why, thank you. Thank you so much.
Here we go.
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
You are a cutie pie. So that's our activity. Understanding, which is the overlap between whole and part, same and different, like and unlike. To reflect on the model, to know it as a whole, and to go through that brilliant light of being into the instant, which is the cause even of that. So even that brilliant light of being is a shadow of a self. That's what we want to know. We all desperately seek understanding and knowing of mind and self, and our problems are nothing other than a fear of that, a fear that we've learned it's not true. You need courage to realize it's not true, because in the meantime it will feel true. So we need courage. Courage to what? Master our understanding and find the source of that false belief about those two things we seek. False belief about self and reality, and why we are constantly in a self-fulfilling prophecy, in an activity causing our problems in opposition to our own goodness and benefit, and the good and the one. So, it's just that simple. Humans have been in a conflict between ignorance and wisdom, the false model and activity, the imitation or lesser copy of the true model and activity, understanding and knowing. So wisdom, understanding and knowing, ignorance, belief, and materialism or rejection of the whole. Now that we've seen that, we don't have to keep repeating. We can solve that problem. Done. Now we're free to look at, hang on, what's the cause of both? How do we prepare our understanding so we recognize in everything we do, even in the physical world, we're participating in one good true? One chicken. It's good to kiss the chicken. And it's true that it's the best chicken. Everything we do, seeking truth. We don't want to be conned. Seeking our goodness, the good. And we have to perceive by making it a one. So even in the physical world, it's all about one true good. And we use logos and ousia, self-reflection and language, to get the one true and good. The ultimate use of that is in the realm of mind, which is understanding, which is the art of dialectic. How do we guide curiosity, self-reflection in our relationships and conversations with people through a series of questions which encourages them to put their words on? So there's our ousia and logos, to find the model of mind, or mind and self. To experience the model of goodness, oneness, and truth, to gain our benefit, perfect our activity of understanding, but also to recognize that just as even in our physical things, we can see the one, the true and the good, the self, the ultimate nature, reality of self. So too, even in that divine luminosity experience, greater even than experience of oneness, goodness, and truth is the good, the one, the true self. So can we have a question about the one true good self? The pure logos and ousia, the ultimate goal of self in whatever we do, and even in the divine luminosity, because it's that preparation that makes us worthy to go through that luminosity into the instant and know the self. And continue to reflect on the self and perfect our activity of self. So there might even be stages of perfection of that stage of self. That's the ultimate goal. That's the new category of man that dooms all others. Because everything else is either in this war against mind. Now that we've done that, or every morning before morning tea time, do dream analysis to purify our ignorance, perfect our wisdom, and then after that we can spend the rest of the day wondering about the self. What's the one? What's the good? That's also the one and good and true. How can it be all one? And how can it be the self? And how can we prepare ourselves to go through each moment or now and return as every moment returns to the instant? How can we watch it? How can we participate in going through the divine luminosity into the gap or the instant to know the self? Any haters that say otherwise are defending what they don't understand out of fear. A fear that they've learnt and they're loyal to as the lesser imitation of the model of knowing and self. So that's the old way of being, the war on mind. That's the new way of being, the ultimate new class of man. That if Socrates represents wisdom and Jesus represents belief and ignorance, those two would be followers of this new class of man. So thank you for your words and your courage to share your words and to stick with it for as long as you did. I hope you stay in the game. I hope you're not disheartened. I hope you don't take anything personally, because everything I said applies to all people when they hit their block. It can be straight away. It can be further down the track. But if we're talking about the Parmenides, the literal dialectic logos understanding of the self, it will trigger everyone. Why? Because it's the highest use of the logos. It's the ultimate state of being. It wouldn't be much of an ultimate state of being if it didn't surface the beliefs and blocks so that we can practice this dialectic to purify them. It wouldn't be an ultimate state of being if it didn't surface our enlightenment states also, so we can perfect those and also move through the brilliant light of being, the penultimate spiritual experience, to the ultimate. It has to do both. Or, to use the analogy, A is to B as B is to A plus B. It has to do both. So it will challenge us. We have to recognize that, not take it personally, keep our courage up, keep our nose in the text, keep our wonder about our false beliefs, keep our curiosity about mind, and develop an understanding of all of it, and especially the self. That's the ultimate way of being that incorporates and helps us deal with everyone at every other level. That's the new way of being that puts an end to the human conflict between wisdom and ignorance, and we got a fantastic demonstration of what it looks like today. Thank you once again for joining me, and I'll see you in the next one.